Welcome to the political space. So this is a platform that's so at the political space we host a number of guests that includes a member of parliament, aspiring councillors, mayors, council chairperson, and also party presidents. So at the political space we'll be asking direct and challenging questions. So I hope the guests here are ready to see those questions go, because the whole purpose of this channel is to enhance transparency, accountability, and also political participation across the country. And you're with me, Webster. So this is the first episode of the political space, and today I'm honored that at the first episode, we are hosting someone that is so prominent in the political space. His name is across the country and is served in the politics for over 20 years. This is Venerable Christopher Kang'ombe, the Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa in Kitwe. So, Venerable, you are welcome in the political space.
Thank you, Webster. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be your first guest.
Sure.
A great honor.
And that's so,
Yeah.
the fact that you are someone that's big in the political industry, and
I don't think so. Am I that big?
you are, okay, yeah. And to host you on the first episode is such a great honor.
I'm humbled as well. Thank you for inviting me. I hope we have a great conversation.
Sure. So like I said, this is a political space.
Okay.
So the questions here are challenging, but we want you to answer them honestly and directly.
Okay.
So there's nothing like you want to panel beat so that you...
No, I've been doing interviews, I think, from as far back as my days at university, doing radio, doing TV interviews. So I think I've been in this type of environment for a long time.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, I hope we have a good conversation.
Sure. So maybe just to start with, it's about 4 weeks since Zambia celebrated its 61st independence.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the political situation in the country currently?
At the moment, well, quite unfortunate that the last couple of weeks we're just coming from celebrating our independence. We've had a lot of cases that have been confirmed that have involved political violence. And I think for me, having followed politics from the 90s when I was in primary school, having followed politics in high school, and then eventually university, and now 19 years in leadership, I find it quite unfortunate that after all the gains we've made, because we are going into an election year, suddenly we have cases where people are attacking each other. You have political cadres suddenly reappearing on the political scene. And I've always argued that you will never see a son or a daughter of a politician being sent to go and harass a political party opponent. So quite unfortunate. I'm starting from there because you have asked me a question about the state of politics. And I think that at this stage of our independence, 61 years, this is when we should actually be telling ourselves that we have grown. We have grown past our challenges, whatever the format they were, and now we're doing better. But quite unfortunate that we have those incidences. The recent one, I think, was Honorable Lubinda, acting president for the PF. We saw what happened. He was removed from an indoor meeting which he was having. We've had cases where the party secretariat for the PF has been attacked. We've had a very unfortunate incident where His Excellency the President was attacked in Chingora. I think that should have been 2 weeks ago. Now these are odd examples. This is not what should define our politics today. Now that's on the political front, but also within the political spaces there are quite a few other things. For instance, a country that is going to an election, one of the things that should define preparations for an election is obviously allowing people to register as voters, allowing as many people to have the right to cast their vote. Stakeholders have argued that ECZ has not given adequate time to people who want to vote either for the first time or they want to replace their voters' cards. So we've had an outcry, and I think ECZ did announce an extension. But already the extension is nearing. We're going towards the 26th of November. Now, ECZ has announced today that there will be no further extension. Now, that is alarming because you want more people to participate. You want more people to say, we had an opportunity to decide who should be our president, who should be our MP. So I think that those are things that need to be attended to, and I'm sure we'll discuss them.
So, to your own opinion, how long would you suggest the voter registration should be?
Well, I've participated in elections, I think, since 2006. 2005, we had a registration of voters. It went all the way, I think, up to December. Then you do everything in the new year. You to publish the registers. The new year should be now for letting the voters know that, oh, your name is in the register. You know, there's that verification exercise where you print out the register and you tell people, in Kalingalinga, if you registered at this polling station, come and verify your name. So how fast should the registration go? I think that we should allow the process to go up to the end of December. Then the new year, we shouldn't have any registration of voters. That is my view.
So you started politics around 2005, 2006.
2005, 2006.
How was it in terms of balance, capitalism by that time?
Well, the cases, minor cases would be reported. I think we've had cases of young people being involved in political violence for the longest period. I don't think it's an issue which has suddenly appeared today. During the struggle for independence, when we became the one-party system, I think the cases of young people being involved in political violence, we've had cases always reported, isolated. Mufumwe by-election. There's a by-election in this place. Cadres are taken there, and then there's trouble. But then along the way, I think we've been making progress because society has been able to speak. People have been able to say, this is not a good vice. And political parties are supposed to heed that advice. But I think that in the past and where we are today, 2005, I don't think we had as many cases, but only in by-elections. 2005, 2006, 2007, I think most cases of political violence were reported were cases where we had by-elections, not where you're just hearing that your opponent is having a press briefing and you attack them.
So what do you think has caused this change? Any factor that you can attribute to?
Well, like I said much earlier, we have never seen a group of young people living a home where their parent is either a minister, a member of parliament, or a mayor, where people start off to say, we are going to attack our opponent. In most cases, these young men and women are actually saved because there must be someone telling them, go and do this, like the recent instance. So I think that what could I attribute these cases of political violence? I think, first of all, if I'm competing in an election, I should be able to argue with my opponent on things that I would do better or the things that I think I'm doing very well. But when you see political cadres being unleashed, you then realize that it could be a sign of fear that the competitor might say something that will convince the voter. So when you see such signs, I think the onus now is on the political players to agree. What type of politics should we do that would deal with this problem? And that is why for me, and I'm sure this is something I wanted to mention through this platform, this is one of the things I've been advocating for. Can we change the way we've wired our politics? Because politics in Zambia are wired around political parties. If you are political party A, we don't want to agree with political party B. But what should bring you together to discuss, disagree, are issues to do with what is good for healthcare, what is good for mining, what is good for tourism. That is what should define our politics, and that is my philosophy as Christopher Kang'ombe.
And then, Honorable, do you think young people have realized their role in terms in politics, what their role is, what their role should play in the politics? Do you think the young people realize that?
Well, young people as far back as independence time, if you read your history, and I'm sure those that are tuned into this chat, if you've read your history, you'll remember that it is young people that actually led the process of supporting the independence struggle. We are people that were in their 40s, we are people that were in their 50s, but predominantly the KKs of yesteryears, the Kapwepwes, the Harumongan Kumpuras, they were relatively young people. Not that they were below 30 or below 20, but I think they were reasonably young people who saw the need to liberate the country. It took a bit of time, but eventually we got our independence. Fast forward, we've had young people showing up. When we had multipartism in 1990, we had a couple of young people out of university who decided you want to be part of the new dispensation. 2001, we had young people contesting as members of parliament. I contested in 2006. I was 21 years old when I stood as councillor for the first time, and I won. And I think that the role of young people, I think everyone understands their role. But you see, when economic opportunities are not available to everyone, you have a group of young people that are well exposed. You have people like me who had the opportunity to begin leadership at a young age. And this is one of the things I've been trying to tell fellow young people, that no one will come and pick you and say, here's an opportunity for you to contest an election. So I'm thinking, do young people realize their role? I think they do. It's just that the opportunities, the economic opportunities may not be available for everyone to be able to avoid being used, because sometimes those who are used to go and perform things like political violence are those who are financially vulnerable. So it's easy for one politician who does not understand the role of young people, who then provide money to young people to go and attack a certain person, which is quite unfortunate. So to answer your question, I think that young people understand their role.
Okay. So just to take you back, we've talked about young people since the time you were starting. Like, what really motivated you to pursue politics?
Well, I started quite early. I began my journey in high school because I was active in public speaking. And you know, when you're doing public speaking in high school, you are researching on topics, and then eventually getting to represent the secondary school that I was where I was learning from, Kitwe Boys Secondary School in Kitwe. So the time I was going to university, I think that I had began understanding that you can't be on the sidelines. If you're not going to be a candidate in an election, at least be an advocate for good governance. If you're not going to be an advocate for good governance, at least identify other young people who you think represent your values as a young person. So I acknowledged these realities quite early, 2004, when I was going to CBU. So by the time I was doing my third year, I was already president for the Students' Union. Now, when you're president of the Students' Union, you literally don't just focus on the students' problems. You also have to follow what's happening in the country. We had a constitution-making process in 2004. You remember when President Wanawasa appointed the Muumba Review Commission?
Yeah, 2004. Yeah, it's a big country number.
Yeah, so 2004, I was 19 years old, first year student at CBU. We presented our arguments as young people, as students, about the Constitution, the Republican Constitution. That was exposure. You're getting exposed. And then later on you realize, but these individuals who are seated on the commission, these are citizens like us. We also need to have a role to play. So I started quite early, student union politics, independent councillor for a place called Riverside in Kitwe, with the support of fellow young people. Yes, I was independent.
Where did you get the resources to?
There was no need for resources.
How do you do there was no need?
There was no need. All you needed were, you needed to print flyers. Put your face on the flyer, put your name and the position you are contesting, and basically the energy. Because you see, when you are young, you have the energy to knock every door. So I had the energy. I mean, I knew that fellow students at CBU would vote for me. Not everyone, but at least a good number would vote for me. I knew that for me to convince residents of Chipata Compound, residents of Riverside, I needed to go there. So I had the energy. I didn't have the mind.
So, Honorable, if we bring someone who is 19 years old today, most likely someone that still stays with their parent.
Yeah.
They're still dependent on their parents.
Yes.
And then to run for an office of the council and convince people, you are being kept, and how do you convince people to say,
Today,
yes, I'm going to manage your challenges you're facing, when you yourself are still being kept there?
Well, I don't think that I received support from everyone because I was young, and I think people within that locality knew that Christopher Kang'ombe is a student. So there were those that discouraged me. Christopher, you would be more useful to society if you actually finished school and be able to contribute more to the nation. But because you want to compete in politics, I mean, you'll be distracted. There were all those discouragements. But I knew that the plan would work. And that is why I was telling you that I don't think at that time politics were demanded so much money as opposed to today. So a 19-year-old today and a 19-year-old in 2004, totally different
How
times.
much did you spend on your?
I remember I was assisted with a 2,000 kwacha to do flyers by my parents.
The plastic one, the 2000 plastic one.
2,000 kwacha, 2,000 kwacha, equivalent is 2,000 kwacha.
Okay.
Because that is whom
Million by that time.
that time was 2 million. So 2,000 kwacha was enough to print flyers. Just these small papers.
So are you here, Honorable, telling us you just printed flyers? There
I
were
printed
no t-shirts or
There were no t-shirts. I remember someone offered to do about 10 t-shirts for foot soldiers, those that were going for identification. But not the way it's done today. Today you have to give a t-shirt to someone who's not even voting.
Yeah.
Today you end up wearing someone a cap to someone you're not even sure if they are voting.
Why is that?
Because I don't know, it's how politics have become now. Very few young people will manage to compete on account of not having resources. And that is where people like me who've gone through this process comes in very important. That is why I'm trying to mentor young people, and I'm running a mentorship program where I sit down with people that want to go into civil society. I sit down with people that want to go into running NGOs. I sit down with people that want to compete in elections. I tell them, this you can do, this you manage, you struggle, then they help you do ABCD.
Which background are you coming from? The less privileged, the well-to-do, or maybe the upper mothers?
You know, I grew up in a place called Ndeke. I don't know if you're familiar with Kitwe.
Not much.
So Kitwe has got unplanned settlements. It has got middle class, they call it middle class, for this is where former council houses used, which are found. So I grew up in Ndeke village and Ndeke, which is predominantly a place where former council workers used to stay. I was determined to do well in grade 12 because I wanted to go to university. And I think university opened up opportunities for me to learn about student union politics. So it was one decision after the other. You start learning, because if the mind is weak, no matter how much money you have, you can't win an election. But my mind was too strong.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were at your parents' place by then?
Yes. I was a third-year student at CBA. I was studying electrical mechanical engineering.
Then your 10 years career, you said as a councillor, what is the tangible results that you can point to say, I did this as a councillor or I did that as a councillor?
Well, one of my strengths as a young person in leadership was to recognize that I had time, I had energy, and I was going to use this opportunity I was given. So at first, when I used to go community meetings, I did get the right level of participation from residents because I was still a student. So people would say, the young man is calling us for a community meeting. What do we do? Let's find a different strategy. So me and my team and my colleagues, we decided to involve the elderly people. We formed a committee of residents. So we were calling community meetings through residents. And the attendance improved. At least there were a good number of people that used to attend our meetings. And through those meetings, I could pick what people wanted. People wanted us to sort out street lights in Riverside. People wanted us to sort out parks where young people could play, kids could play. People wanted us to do basic grading of the roads. So I think I had the voice in the council. I had people telling me what was necessary. So we achieved quite a lot. We got a couple of footbridges. That is why I keep telling people who discuss CDF today that talk to some of us who've been using CDF for as far back as 2006, though at a smaller scale, but it was still an amount that could do something within the locality. The small things, not the big things. So what did I achieve in my 10 years as councillor? A lot of advocacy work. A councillor should speak in the council. A councillor should be able to pick an issue if it's garbage, be able to say, let's go and sort out this. So I have that ability, the ability to go from one office to the other and still balance with school, before I graduated in 2009 at CBU. So I think that my greatest achievement was the ability to always find a way to get the community involved. Because if you get the community involved, they will understand your limitations. You can't deliver what is not within your means as a councillor. A councillor should simply speak and get things moving. And I think that was my greatest achievement.
So for 10 years, I guess that was the time you were re-voted to the office.
Yeah, 2011 I recontested.
So were you voted out of the results of maybe just people like you? Or there was no...
No, they saw the energy, they saw the commitment towards work, they saw how many community meetings I could hold. Every month we would have a monthly community meeting. I could do flyers, and this is my advice to young people that are contesting. You won't have the money that the big guys have. Your communication strategy as a leader is important. You may be working, performing, doing very well, but if your communication strategy is poor, people won't even know that you've delivered in area B, area C, or area D. So I think the re-election in 2011 was as a result of the fact that people saw potential, they saw commitment to the work that I was doing, and they thought the young man needed to be given a second chance to continue doing work.
All right, so when I'm looking at what does leadership mean to you, political leadership specifically mean to you when public trust in politicians is very low?
Well, what does it mean? For me, I think political leadership is an opportunity to sit around a table where decisions are made. And that is why it is important that when you are given an opportunity to be in leadership, whether it's parliament where I am today, whether it's the council where I was privileged to be mayor for the city, there must be things that point to your ability to get the things that affect the people. It's easy for me who's been in leadership now long enough to know what concerns residents. But you can't take it for granted. So political leadership for me means you've been given an opportunity to represent a bigger majority. Because not everyone can sit in parliament. Not everyone can sit in the chamber. Not everyone can be councillor. But there must be someone who should have the ability to engage people, go into a platform or a chamber and be able to make the noise on behalf of the residents. So political leadership is a privilege. It's a great honor. It's something that you must carry with that understanding that I have to do it right for the people. And if you got what I said much earlier, if you're not communicating with people, they'll think you are misrepresenting your role as a political leader. But if you are going back to the people, telling them, colleagues, CDF is 30 million kwacha, but out of this 30 million, this component is already defined, this component is already defined, this is the only money available. Then people will understand. But if you don't understand how to communicate, people will begin telling you, everyone has been given 40 million in CPF, you have failed to perform. When in actual fact, it's your failure to explain what is doable and what can fit us.
So do we vote you in power to explain to us what can be done, what could be done? But we vote you in power for you to do the challenges or to develop us a bit the challenges that we perceive.
So let me give an example. I got a message today that there's a place in my constituency where garbage has accumulated. Okay? Now, if you understand the role of a member of parliament can't go and collect the garbage. It's a role of a council under the Department of Public Health. So my understanding of politics is that when I receive that request, the first thing I should do is to get in touch with the Director of Public Health. I must have the ability to pick up the phone, communicate to the person who's responsible, give feedback to the people that I have communicated to the Department of Public Health, and they've told me that they will attend to it on this day. That simple role is the role of a member of parliament. That simple role is the role of the councillor. That simple role is the role of the mayor. The mayor should be able to say, Director of Engineering, there's a road going to this farm block. The member of parliament has written that can you make the grader for Kamfinsa constituency available to be able to do the work. So do you people elect politicians to go and explain what is doable and what is not doable? It's one of the things that has to be done in terms of performing of your duties. Your duty is to identify the issues, take them to the council, take them to parliament. But if you are poor at explaining to people what is workable and what is not. For instance, CDF can't provide a tarred road. But do you know that there are people who think that because Constituency Development Fund is released, the following day, all the roads will be done?
Why isn't it?
No, it can't be done because to tie a road, you need, I think it's just around $1 million per kilometer. I need to look at the figures. So the cost of doing a kilometer of tarred road can't be covered in the money called Constituency Development Fund, because the fund is meant for, I may call them smaller projects, not the big capital projects. So as you perform your duties, someone has to do that explanation, so that when people now are doing the ticking, did he provide us with a health post? Yes, it's within CDF. Did he speak in parliament? Yes, he did. When he was mayor for Kitwe, did he ensure that the local authority, in terms of garbage collection, they had a local strategy for each area? Yes, he did. So people then would tip. Then they'll be able to say, this and this he did not perform because of the following reasons. But someone has to explain the limitations.
Well, interesting. And then yesterday you were presenting 2 motions in Parliament, and one of them that I picked is the setting up of livestock farm boards.
Yeah.
The areas that livestock is low.
Yeah.
And then members of Parliament voted against that motion.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Well, being human, you get disappointed that...
Not you get angry, you get disappointed.
You get, as a human being, you get disappointed when you are convinced that your proposal is good, even at family level, even at community level. So in Parliament, there's a provision that requires those with ideas, those with suggestions, to take them to Parliament in form of motions. And I'm sure you followed the conversation in the last 4 years. I think I have moved the most motions in Parliament. Out of all the 156 members of Parliament, I've lost count of how many motions are.
So is that a political strategy?
No. It's an issue that requires the public to understand. It's also an issue that requires government to move, to make something happen. So the avenue that I've been using is through motions. So yesterday, the motion was about the cattle stock that we have in Zambia. We have 10 provinces. So if you look at Southern Province, Eastern, Western, Central Province, these have been doing very well in terms of cattle stocking, in terms of cattle production, in terms of beef production. So it's been on my mind that we can't continue discussing mining only as a sector that should give us jobs. We can't continue discussing only specific sectors unless we employ teachers, unless we employ nurses. So I thought, can I take a conversation to Parliament where I'll be able to ask government, is it possible that the best practices from Central Province, the best practices from Eastern Province, Southern, where they are very good from a cultural point of view, from a historical point of view, these are places where people keep a lot of cattle. And because they do that, is it possible that government can set up a farm block specifically for livestock, where the best practices, where the benchmarking should be done, where we engage the traditional leadership? We go into Luapula, we go into Northwestern Province, we go and discuss with Chief Mumena. We say, your people here in Kalumbila, can we provide them with an environment where they can also learn how to keep cattle? Can you help us reorient the thinking of our people to be able to appreciate what else they can do apart from mining? So the conversation I took to Parliament was about asking governments to set up livestock farm blocks. Of course, if you pick the conversation, those that were opposing were contradicting themselves. On one hand, they were saying, no, we can't support this motion. In the same 8 minutes someone is debating, they said, no, government is already implementing this. So there's really, the position was contradictory because our colleagues from the ruling party, I think, did not get time to understand what I was proposing. Maybe they did, they were pretending. But the minister, in his response, because he was reading a text which was provided by the technocrats in the ministry, the objectives of what I was proposing and what government is doing, there was a bit of alignment. And for me, the only difference was that I wasn't looking at take 100 cater into an area and say we are resolving the problem. I wanted a farm block that would provide infrastructure. I was proposing a farm block that would provide veterinary services in the farm block, that would provide market access so that when the beef is produced, there's a market for the beef. So I wanted an integrated solution to the problem. So I was disappointed that my colleagues from UPND did not support my proposal. I think they were wicked. I think they were told, don't support the proposal from Christopher Kang'ombe. I don't know for whatever reasons.
You always say this, whippy. What's wrong with whippy?
Whipping is being told, do this, don't do this. So the ruling party has a whip, and he's called a government whip. Okay? The opposition also have an opposition whip. So the whipping system has been adopted from the Westminster system, which is the British system, where before debate in Parliament, people are told what to do, which is a bad practice because people should be allowed to express themselves. And I think that without the whipping system, I think the UPND MPs would have supported my proposal for other provinces to learn from these other provinces that are doing very well in terms of cattle keeping.
And then has government budgets been able to meet your expectations as an MP for Kamfinsa?
No, the national budget hasn't responded. I'm one of the advocates for us to provide better access to water for our people in the constituency. Kamfinsa's biggest problem has been water. I know we've got a challenge of unemployment, young people need opportunities, but I think from an infrastructure point of view, our biggest challenge has been water. So within CDF, we've tried to use part of the money to do water schemes, 3 tanks, a solar-powered pump, you run water into an unplanned settlement, but the scale, the capacity of the tanks is too small. So the money can't do big things. So this is where the national budget should be able to respond. This is where central government should give Nkana Water and Sewerage the money they need to implement some of the projects we started when I was serving as mayor. So when I was serving as a mayor, we realized that too many places within Kitwe needed access to water. So we asked Nkana Water, can you scope a project because this is your mandate? And that is how they scoped a project, $200 million. And government found a contractor. But because funds are not dispersed to a time, we've not seen the right amount of progress in the last 4 years. But my appeal to government has always been, let's put more money in the national budget so that we resolve the water problems in Kamfinsa, Chamboli, Mindolo, which is under Nkana. And then I think the bigger problem of water will be attended to. So I don't think that the national budget, we could get more money into the constituency. There are competing priorities. We can't do everything. You can't finish all the problems in 5 years. But at least the major ones, health, education, these we've been able to touch. But water for me remains.
What explanation are you getting your people on the constituency?
No, I'm just being honest. Okay. I don't know why people don't like honest politicians.
So if you went, if there's an election tomorrow, yes, vote for an MP in Kamfinsa, are they going to vote for you?
No, they would vote for me. They would vote for me.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then now let's know a bit, what are the main critics to the current government, the UPND government? The main critics to the government?
Number one, I think that from the onset, I noticed that the opportunities that lied in our economy, I didn't see our colleagues identifying that Zambians could actually lead into taking advantage of these opportunities, whether it's mining. We've had to speak loudly in Parliament. Christopher Kang'ombe has had to take motions in Parliament, talk about giving opportunities to Zambians. And because of that loud voice around Zambian ownership of economic opportunities, in few areas government has responded. Government has been able to say, wait a minute, I think the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa has raised a valid point on mining. And Zambians now are more skilled than how we were 30, 40 years ago. Now the skills are there. At independence, we didn't have a mechanical engineer. We didn't have an electrical engineer who was Zambian. Now we have those skills, the mining engineers, the geologists. So because I've been speaking about these issues, government has been able to pay more attention to what I think are concerns that affect Zambians in the economic space. So my first critique of the current government has been they've taken quite a bit of time to be able to realize that Zambians can be given the first right of refusal in any business opportunity, whether it's setting up solar plants. We should try Zambians. If we fail, then we say, let's go and look for foreign capital. Secondly, I think that they've not been able to deal with the energy crisis the way it should have been dealt with in the period they've been in government, because we are now clocking 5 years. I think that the day the UPND was elected, they should have asked themselves what things will make us tick, okay? Yes, they've allocated more money under CDF, but I mean, CDF will not resolve the bigger energy problem. They've also opened up the sector to more solar plants, okay? But those have not resolved the problem, because like you put it earlier, you can give an explanation to a problem, but if you don't show that you are resolving the problem, for as long as people are having access to power for 2 hours, 3 hours, the complaint will still be there. And obviously, as a result of that complaint, I would have dealt with that problem differently.
How would that be, sir? Because you politicians have this tendency. No. I'll do this. I'll do that. Zero when you're in power, we talk about explanations now.
So there are two types of politicians. I'm not an expert in every field. I don't think I'm an expert in every field, but I've been in leadership long enough to know that if I put engineers around the table and I ask them, colleagues, I've won an election. I'm now president of Zambia. Colleagues, I'm now the Minister of Energy. Is it possible that we can ask the mining companies to produce half of their electricity? Okay, because I've always argued, and this argument will remain consistent. The old ZCCM, which were the mines by government, actually had a power plant. Every mine on the copper belt had a power plant. We had Nkana power plant. We had Nchanga power plant. We had Ron power plant. A power plant simply means a technology or infrastructure that produces electricity. So you have a mine, and then you have a smelter, and then you have a power plant. So I've always argued, is it possible that even the new mine owners could be engaged to provide, even using different technology, to produce their own electricity, so that half of the electricity is provided by ZESCO and half is provided by the mines? And I took a motion to Parliament. Again, I'm on record suggesting that can government ask Mopani, First Quanta, Luansha copper mines to produce half of their electricity and let ZESCO provide half, so that the power going to ZESCO can then be made available to the national grid for people who want to run small businesses. Is the technology there? Okay. First technology is thermal. Dangote Cement, I've always argued, in Ndola produces its own electricity. Mambako in Sinazongwe, there were 300 megawatts. Now there's an extra 300. Now imagine if all the mines could set up even just a certain unit that could produce even just 100 megawatts each.
But there's a concern for climate change in the thermal power generation. Yeah, that basically. So this is Honorable Kang'ombe that we are hosting today on the first episode of the Political Space. So Honorable Kang'ombe is explaining to us about the power challenges and how we can do things deeply.
Not academic solutions, real solutions.
Real solutions.
Yes.
Okay, and then you are a member of the Patriotic Front, and you people...
Have I concluded on electricity?
Please.
So I wanted to conclude under less than a minute. So, if the technology is there, if ZESCO today can't produce all the electricity they need to take to the mines, my proposal, I want to be on record again, is that within a period of 36 months, which is 3 years, it is possible to set up a power plant that would produce electricity by the 48th month, which is 4 years. You can start producing your own electricity.
So like right now, if we started this project, it's 4 years. Take us 4 years.
Yes.
And the load shedding you have.
That is a realistic period in terms of that technology. So there are 3 types of technology. A thermal plant will always be 36, 48 months. A hydro power plant, which is depending on water to run the turbines, again will also be 36, 48 months. But from 2021, we are now going into I think we are already up in the 48th month. Some of these solutions could have been implemented. A solar plant with a good lead time, 12 or 16 months, you have a solar powered plant. But again, solar will not run the mines. Solar will sort out domestic consumers. So I'm asking myself, could we have been more proactive? I think we could have been more proactive.
Okay.
Yeah.
You actually, you're still a KF member, I believe. Right?
Yes.
And the KF government for about 10 years, we still are not shady. What was the conversation in the party with the DS mission?
Well, we found installed capacity at 1,700 megawatts. That's the maximum Zambia could produce. At a time, PF was losing power in 2021. Installed capacity was 3,300 megawatts. It had almost doubled. So in terms of available hours for load shedding, I think the hours are produced. What unfortunately has transpired is that we had a challenge with how much water we could get into the hydropower plants. And that is why, for me, if you've scanned our nation, Luapula has got 5 sites, which is Luapula River has got 5 sites. Luapula doesn't dry up as much as the other rivers on the other side of our country. So in the last 5 years, I'm asking myself, if the Luapula River has got 5 sites, 3 on the Zambian side, 2 on the Congolese side, because the Luapula River separates Zambia and Congo, could we have developed those hydro plants there? Because there is no problem of water drying up. The water levels there throughout the year, you've got good water. So I'm asking myself, could we have developed those? I think we should have also focused on those. And I hope that moving forward, we could now be told by government, how far have we gone to direct resources into the 5 sites on the Luapula River?
What's wrong with government, Yokifoin government, always say, we found, by the time we found, this or that, and we'll just mention a small margin you've improved on this, but not much to attend to the kind of problem.
Well, the installed capacity doubled. I was just giving the realistic figures, the official figures. You have 1,700 megawatts, and in 10 years you have 3,300 megawatts, meaning the installed capacity of your machines has doubled. But because of the technology that was utilized, you realize that the doubling of the units was on the understanding that the water levels will still be good enough. Unfortunately, we did not have good rainfall. We've had, I know it's a long conversation. You need me on this session for 1 hour to explain the energy sector. because then I'll start explaining power purchase agreements, who's buying power, who's not buying power, are we able to import power, do we have the interconnectors? Those are now conversations that we should have, but I will need quite a lot of time. But the summary is that as at 2021, 3,300 megawatts. Unfortunately, the energy mix was hydro. The bulk of the energy was hydro. So if we had added 1,200 from Luapula River, which is what we can get out of the 5 sites in Luapula, would have been sitting at over 4,000. So to the current government, because I like discussing solutions, is it possible that we can direct resources towards the 5 sites on the Luapula River, as we discuss solar, as we discuss thermal power, as we discuss all these other solutions? We should also have a conversation around, can we get Luapula River to give us the 1,200 megawatts? It will take 48 months by God. 48. Again, we want to be honest. You don't want, politicians shouldn't lie because we are going into an election.
When you go now to mobilize voters, you tell them, like, the way you speak, like, this problem is going to get to none.
Well, I'm on record. I've never gone to a radio interview or TV interview where I've gone and said, tomorrow if I'm elected, I'll resolve the electricity problem with my ear. I want to be on record because this is a conversation that affects our people. I'm telling the people of Zambia that the difference between me and any other person, number one, I'll give people technology that is workable, okay? I'll tell people that to put a solar unit into an area and you want to achieve so much power, you will need 12 to 16 miles, okay? To do hydropower and thermal power, which is what you need to run industry. Solar is for us who are seated here. You need lighting, you need a printer to run, you need a fridge to refrigerate. There you can use solar. And if you want to industrialize your country, you need baseload power. Baseload power is thermal, hydro, and the big megawatts that you need, 36 to 48 months.
Okay. No,
but it's within a 5-year period of a tenure of office. So if you are elected, you should be able to do that in 5 days.
If you are elected?
Yes, if someone is elected, yeah.
let's reflect a bit. Do you think the Patriotic Front did best to the expectations of the Zambia when they're already down it? Let's become this.
Well, I always start a conversation such as that one from independence to where we are. So you need 27 years, good things, bad things. MMG, 20 years, good things, bad things. PF, there are good things that PF did. There are certain things that we didn't do correctly. And I think that when you focus on key drivers of the economy, you open up the country, you start ambitious projects like the Lead Zambia 8,000. You should also ensure that apart from getting the infrastructure correctly, you must also ask yourself, how do we get enough jobs created? Okay, I know the period of 5-10 years may look short, but I think that this is where we need to assign people responsibilities. Committee number 1, your focus is infrastructure. Committee number 2, your focus is job creation. So jobs were being created, in Kitwe, for instance, during road construction. I had young people being employed, learning how to do roads, pavers, the 20% subcontracting, which was introduced under PF. For the first time, when a major contractor is being given a job, there was a Zambian attached to it. But you see, now we needed to ensure that from those Zambians who are getting those skills, can we now get them to do roads themselves? So if you ask me, I think that in terms of jobs, we could have created more jobs. We focused on infrastructure. We focused on energy infrastructure, which I've just explained. We focused on roads. There are a couple of roads that we did. We didn't finish all the roads. But I think we also needed now to ask ourselves, these skills that people are acquiring, is it possible that we can create new millionaires, new independent, financially independent Zambians? There, I think we did do enough. And again, if we tell the new guys the same thing, they should learn. They should be able to say, well, Christopher was on the podcast. He was on an interview. Did he say PF did everything correctly? No, he said, in this area we did well. In healthcare, we introduced what was called national health insurance. One of the best decisions ever made by government to introduce health insurance. When someone is sick, yes, Nima, that's one of the
Working now.
well, the concept was magnificent. The idea was brilliant. What now needs to be done is to ensure that all the systems speak to efficiency, because we need to make Nima efficient. If I'm sick, I need to go to a health facility, be attended to, and the system should deal with the bill. Okay? So I'm asking myself, was Nima a good thing or a bad thing? Brilliant idea. And I commend the team that approved that proposal under the Patriotic Front. So I'm asking myself, could we have done better in certain things? Yes, we could have done better. And I think that in governance, you pass on the baton, but you make sure that those that take over also learn from you. So when we speak in parliament, when Christopher says, no, this we tried, this didn't work, can you do this? Those on the right side of the speaker, who are the guys in the ruling party, should be able to say, well, these guys actually are bringing ideas to make us perform better.
Okay. Yeah, and did you think the government by then really took care of the taxpayers' money?
Well, I think that in terms of how much money went into projects correctly, in terms of proper utilization of resources, we've had Auditor General reports.
Okay, a lot of discrepancies.
Yes, there have been Auditor General's reports that have highlighted cases where money is overspent, cases where money is released, and then maybe the contractor doesn't perform. So there are areas which are well documented, and I think those are areas that should have been handled better. Unfortunately, I don't know why every successful government doesn't learn from the other government, because we have these reports again appearing in the Public Accounts Committee at Parliament. This week, last week, the last 4 years, we've had reports from 2022. Similar cases are reappearing where funds are released for a project, a contractor is paid, they don't deliver works. Unfortunately, this has been an odd practice. I thought that every new government should learn. So PF should have learned from MND. Unfortunately, those cases were...
yes or no, did PF really take care of carrying coppers?
Well, I've highlighted the cases that were picked, because I can't say they did. Roads were built, health facilities were built, but there are cases where resources were not correctly used. That is a fact, because they are documented. And the same applies to the new team, because I've seen that reports have continued to emerge where funds are released, and I know my colleagues in the public accounts are dealing with this issue at the moment. And I want to repeat, if you take over government, you are best suited to simply get what your colleagues didn't do correctly, do better, and be able to say, as we are doing better in this space. So certain resources were properly utilized, other resources, according to the reports that we have before Auditor General, I think that there are other things that were not properly utilized.
You are a member of the Patriotic Front, and now there are these issues that are happening in your party.
Yeah.
What's really happening? What did you read?
Well, it's not according to my views, but it's according to what's documented. Because my view can be, I can give a view, I can give an opinion, but what is official is that in 2023, a colleague of ours decided to hold a convention at Mulungushi, where he was protected by state institutions. Zambia police was there. Within a day after holding that convention, he went to the registrar, changed the details at the registrar. The official office bearers for PF were changed. Litigation started. You remember I was expelled from parliament. I was one of the 10 MPs that was chased out of parliament for challenging those changes that were done illegally. And obviously we went to court through judicial review. The court said the speaker had no authority to expel Christopher Kang'ombe and 9 others from parliament. Actually, they owe me money because we spent money on legal fees. We are yet to be compensated for the loss of...
and how does it feel to be chased out of parliament? You are presenting something you think is logical in contact, and then you are kicked out.
Well, I knew that on fair grounds, independent-minded procedures, I knew that I'll be back in parliament, because the law does not authorize the speaker to chase a member of parliament.
So what's really happening in the party, and who's fixing the...
Well, so I've started with where the problem starts. Mao Sampa holds a convention. And for the record of those following, Mao Sampa now has confirmed in court, because there's an affidavit he has filed, that convention was not properly done. So I'm not saying from without. The person who conducted the election is saying, no, I agree, that is not how you elect a party president. So that is where the problem started. So where are we now? We have a member of parliament from Mafinga, whose name is appear now as president of the Patriotic Front. We don't know how he...
So who is causing this?
Oh, I don't know who's causing that, but me, I'm mentioning facts as they are, okay? Because if you go to the registrar, okay, names were changed in 2023. Last year, is it last year or this year? Names again have been changed, okay? Meanwhile, me, I'm a member of the Patriotic Front. The party members in Wapula have never participated in an election to pick new leaders. So what is happening now? The party can't proceed with conducting its business correctly. We can't field candidates. We can't field a councillor. We can't field a mayor. We can't field any candidate, because ECZ will tell you we need 2 signatures. A signature for the party president and the signature for the secretary general.
So what conversation are you having with Mayor Ziga? Yes, sir.
Well, so I'll tell you now, this is where now my opinion comes in. What conversation we are having may not be necessary at the moment. But what is important is that, for me, having realized that our party may not be in a position to field candidates, because we have young people who are councillors, young people who are mayors, young people who are members of parliament that want to recontest, continue representing their constituencies. They will not be able to compete if these problems continue. And that is why, for me, while we are hopeful that these court cases could be disposed of, I would want members of the Patriotic Front to begin identifying an alternative platform.
But are you talking?
Yes, we are talking. These conversations are taking place. Personally, I'm telling colleagues, this platform called PF is what should have been our platform. But these court cases may prevent us from participating.
Is it the court cases, or is it about you?
It's the court cases, because if the courts can't determine the case, because the court should dispose of a case. If you and I have an argument, Webster. If I have an argument with person V or person C, and we respect our court processes, we'll go to court. The courts must turn their activities such that justice, you can't have a matter outstanding for 3-4 years. So the reality is that there are cases in court, and I'm hoping that the judiciary would be able to determine these court cases so that if PF retains its status as a party that can put field candidates, then it proceeds to field candidates. If the court processes drag on, individuals who are politicians who want to serve the public would obviously want to participate.
So then I tell you to, like, inside the house, have you reconciled? Like, had you people agreed on one thing that you are presenting to be fought? Or you are still having those issues? Amongst yourself, Honorable Chabinga, Honorable Mel Sampa, and the rest of the team. Have you people agreed on one thing? Or you are still fighting what is going on?
Well, the reason why the matter is still in court is because there are different views. But the reality is that to elect a party president, whether it's in MMD, whether it's in UNIP, whether it's in PF, whether it's in UPMD, the constitution guides how you elect a party president. And what elected Mao Sampa was not a correct procedure. Mao has filed an affidavit in the High Court, and it's there which shows that he stated that, no, that's not how you elect a party president. So everything that is a product of that process, ideally is supposed to be null and void.
So you personally, what are you doing to put the part together?
Well, I can't do anything because the court process is running.
Okay.
I can't do anything. And that is why I'm telling colleagues who are party members that, colleagues, yes, we may not be happy that the court process has dragged on, but we must start asking ourselves, how do we continue representing our people? How do we continue representing the nation? How do we continue contributing to governance? There are elections coming next year. People have to contest councillor, mayor, MP, president. If PF platform is been grabbed from us, okay, it's been grabbed. So you know, I've just finished. I've just finished explaining.
Okay.
Yes, I've just finished explaining the summary. So in the end, people must acknowledge that we have a problem. When you define a problem, you then define a solution. The solution is obviously to hope that the court process runs and the matter is disposed of. But if it becomes clear that the court process will drag on, which is becoming clear, I think that we then have to ask ourselves, which platform do we use to continue representing our people? Well, it's an option, because a platform means a political party. So there must be a platform, there must be a vehicle where we'll be able to say, person A, since he can't contest on PF, the party has agreed to use this vehicle.
And Honorable Kang'ombe, you seem to be so subtle in these issues. You don't appear so much.
On which issues?
The Cape issues. And you don't want to take sides. What's your political strategy?
Well, I'm a realist. I'm on record indicating that, do we ignore the court process? Because if we ignore the court process, it means that we have to move into gear 2, which is to create a platform for ourselves. That is the reality. So when you say Sato, what do you want me? You want me to say certain words? Do you want to pick words for me?
No, others are coming out on open and they're accusing, this one is causing this one is causing this, and others are picking sides and lying.
Well, this is Christopher Kang'ombe. I don't know how people want to put words in my mouth. I'll say it as it is. The problem starts in 2023 because the matter is in court, and I've just told you that I don't agree with whatever convention it took place. I was expelled from parliament because I challenged that position. I went to court and I won the court case with 8 other members of parliament. Today I'm saying we want the judiciary to determine those court cases so that we have direction. If the court cases will drag on, PF MPs, PF mayors, PF councillors, I'm telling you, we must start thinking of an alternative platform. That is all I can say. I don't like discussing individuals beyond what I think is factual. It's just me, it's just my nature. There are journalists that have called me, Christopher Kang'ombe, person A has said this. What is your opinion? And I said, but that is just an opinion he's expressing. Call me, ask me about the energy sector. Call me and ask me
is UPND managing the empowerment funds correctly? I'll tell you they are not managing the empowerment funds correctly because they are not learning from the past. These empowerment funds could be managed better. MMD started most of these empowerment funds. PF added more empowerment funds. Why do people misuse empowerment funds? Ask me, I'll explain. Because me, I'm a solution-oriented politician. But if people want me to start discussing personalities, unfortunately, Webster, that's what my star.
Yes, and do for you people that are in opposition have the capacity to unseat the current government the election next year?
Well, my prediction next year, first of all, is that I'm not seeing one candidate getting 50% of the vote in the first run. This might be the first time we're having a rerun next year.
Which party do you think in the opposition is stronger to challenge the current government?
Well, first of all, from a membership point of view, PF has got more members than any other political party in the opposition. But structure-wise, organization-wise, the platform can't field candidates. But in terms of the membership, going to Kitwe, going to my constituency, going to Lusaka, ask PF to hold a rally today. Ask Zambia police to authorize PF to hold a rally today. You will see, you'll find there will be so many people. But you see, this is where I'm saying there might be no political party that will get the 50%, not even the UPND, which is in power.
Is it why you...
So there will be I'm foreseeing a rerun. I'm not saying it will happen, but it's likely to happen. It is likely that no political party can get the 50%. Because Edgar Lungu, when he was president, and I want to commend him, and I want to commend the late president for this decision. In the past, to become president, you needed 20%, 30%, 40%, you are president of Zambia. Edgar Lungu, 2016, accepted the proposal that was coming from different stakeholders, that can we have a president who is able to get 50% of the vote? The constitution was changed in 2016. So now, the current president, the aspiring presidential candidates, I don't see anyone getting 50% in the
That's why in the opposition you've decided to come up with alliances.
It's a good strategy. An alliance is just a strategy. It's not a demand, it's just a strategy. PF and UPND tried it in the opposition. There was a PF-UPND pact in 2008. Of course, the pact was later on abandoned. So alliances are just strategies of how to win an election. So is this why we want to form an alliance? I think an alliance is a strong option where you don't split the votes. But you see, if you're not agreeing in terms of thoughts, if you're not agreeing in terms of ideologies, you may end up forming an alliance. Then when you're in government again, you start failing to coordinate how to implement programs of development.
And your comment on the United Kosher Alliance and also the Council Alliance, the current Kosher Alliance, what's your political comment of that?
Political comment? Yes. Yeah, so again, I can give my comment. But these are not conversations I like discussing because, of course, they are general comments. The UKA Alliance collapsed, if you remember. The Tonse Alliance technically has collapsed.
Okay.
Technically, because you see, now, in Zambia, alliances rarely last. And that is why I said, when you form an alliance, yes, it can be there. On paper, it's showing that there's an alliance. But if you don't agree on fundamentals, the first fundamental in an alliance is that agree that there's an anchor part. Because an alliance should have an anchor part. The party which probably has got more MPs or has got more members, and then the others join in, and then you agree how you share responsibilities. People should be honest from day one. If you leave that conversation hanging, okay, because I've been there when the PF and the UPND formed a pact in 2008. I was there, okay? There was a pact that was formed between PF and UPND to try and unseat MMD, okay? When you don't agree who is the anchor party, there must be a bigger guy, there must be a smaller guy, but you're all bringing value. Then the alliance will grow. If you agree from day one, you agree that here the big guy is Webster, here the big guy is Christopher, then everyone will align their responsibilities. But when you leave it open, so the Tonse Alliance had President Edgar Lungu, who had the convening power. He could bring different stakeholders together. Of course, after his death, and may his soul rest in peace, we've seen a case where we've not had the same level of convening power that is available to bring stakeholders together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if all the issues in court about the Patriotic Front ended, whatever it's sorted out in whatever the court decides, then we hold the convention. Are we not going to see more division at the convention?
Well, a convention is supposed to elect a leader. A convention is supposed to be held to pick one among many, okay? And then that person becomes the presidential candidate. So any election, not everyone wins, okay, in terms of the actual outcome. The actual outcome only reveals one candidate. So will it divide the party more? I don't think so. But also, I want to be as honest as possible. I want people to be able to understand that the ideal picture is what you've presented. Court cases resolved, PF in the right format, we pick a candidate, ideally. But me, I'm worried because I'm not seeing these matters being concluded in good time. So me, if you are to ask me, what is my suggestion? My suggestion, I want to be on record again, is that quickly we must start thinking of an alternative platform.
Wow. So, if maybe just to discuss.
What about it to poka? Actually, to poka katuishi mo bunda londe. Ani to poka. Hey, to poka chipadi so apa. Tufai tu ambok tonton kanya gosh kusema.
Plan B.
Plan B.
Okay.
Ani to poka chipadi.
Honorable Kang'ombe,
Very sad action.
but none about it to pocket. It means him, you know.
Yes.
One and one pocket.
I want to poka chipadi.
The last penny.
Okay, get it like this paper quote. But I to poka chipadi. So tufai tu afwaya. Another platform that we could use where we actually say, colleagues, this is our platform. Unfortunately, we've lost time, but we have to compete.
Do you talk like a senior PFR officials? Yes, we speak. Okay. Yeah. What's the conversation there?
Well, different range of issues. We discuss the status quo. We discuss opportunities. We discuss options available. We discuss everything where we understand what's happening. We understand politics, and we want to find the solution, and we'll find the solution.
And then you have ambitions to run for president. You can say either 2026
or 2031. Yeah.
But for 2026, when your colleagues within the party were preparing for a convention, then actually collapsed.
Yeah.
You were not so much also appearing like you're aspiring for this position, drawing support for that. So 2026 was out of the picture for you.
Well, do you want to, are you asking me why I didn't contest in these elections or?
No, like you didn't seem to drum up support like your colleagues were moving up.
Oh, because of the court cases, because of the matters that I caught.
So you just realized.
So I told myself, look, so to contest as a party president, you pay a nomination fee, right? You file in a nomination. Now, you file in a nomination, meanwhile the problems are in court, okay? And it's just that maybe we have different perspectives. My perspective, my instinct told me that there will be attempts to frustrate our convention.
By who?
The process has already been frustrated. There's an injunction in court. You are aware?
Yes, sir.
Webster, you are aware. So when I use certain terms, I like speaking what is factual. The process has been frustrated by that injunction. So these are problems that I somehow fall. I'm able to tell. I'm able to pick. I've been in this game long enough. My instinct tells me we're dealing with people that don't want progress for the Patriotic Front.
Do you have diehard supporters for Christopher Kang'ombe? The cadres on the ground say, if we go today, we'll find this a cadre for Kang'ombe. This a
cadre. Yeah. So you know the word cadre. If you go to the dictionary, it's actually a good meaning. A cadre is someone who believes in a certain ideology, believes in certain concepts, has been trained to believe in certain good things. That's the meaning of a cadre. So I have people that believe in the work that I do. People that say, Christopher Kang'ombe, we like his articulation of issues on mining. Christopher Kang'ombe from this group, I think he's got good views on how best we can empower young people in the constituency. We like Christopher Kang'ombe's strategy to have all the streams where farm blocks are located provided with bridges so that farmers can do a good job. So yes, you'll find diehard people there that believe in my leadership.
So this is Honorable Kang'ombe, Christopher Kang'ombe. As we wind up on the platform, the political platform, Honorable Kang'ombe, what do you do outside politics?
I play a lot of football. I watch a lot of football. I read a lot. I mentor young people. I want to see young people take up leadership roles. So I'm normally talking to young people. I was on the copper belt trying to resolve problems in my constituency. I had enough time to meet a couple of young people that would be contesting elections, encouraging them, sharing with them strategies. It's my passion to see young people get there. Most young people will struggle next year because of finances, so we have to tell them what is their advantage. And then we tap into that advantage and we get them in the ballot, and I can assure you most young people will win.
So as we are winding up on the podcast, looking back, Honorable Kang'ombe, just one way to the viewers. What's your last message to the political space?
My last words on the podcast. I think that it's been a great conversation, and I hope that democratic space could be made available for people to compete in Zambia. Ideas should define our politics because we want to make sure that politics deliver development for the people of Zambia. It's been a great honor to be on this platform today.
So this is a political space, and you are with me where we started there. And this was the first episode, and it was such a great honor to post Honorable Kang'ombe, the member of Parliament to Kamfinsa. Honorable, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Invite me again. We come and discuss energy in detail. I know it's a political podcast. Invite me. We come and discuss agriculture. Why we should have two strategies: agriculture for export, agriculture for local consumption. Give me an hour just to discuss, because today we're discussing politics. But invite me to come and break down sector by sector.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have the water pass for you here.
Okay.
The political space.
Oh.
And then short book.
And a notebook.
Sure, it's so we can show you.
Political Space Podcast.